Okay, I'm going to make every effort to try not to swear while I'm doing this. I've got the new seal and the bearing and the associated parts fitted already in there, and actually from scratch earlier on I missed out one item. First in is a smaller diameter metal shim, steel shim. That goes in first, followed by the seal facing this way. This is the old seal obviously, with the lip and the spring facing this way. Then after that there's a steel shim or washer, and then obviously the bearing itself. So all that lot is in there now with the new seal, and I'm going to try and show and demonstrate how to reassemble the gearbox. I've got the little spring-loaded indent plunger screwed in just a couple of turns. It's going to help me actually, because it'll just help keep this up where I want it, out the way, because if that's not in there that'll just flop around and it'll make things very awkward. So first thing to go in is going to be the main shaft sleeve and its gear, the one that runs closest to the bearing. So I'll put them in. That's usually sort of easy enough to do. I think we're let's see, hang on, we're not quite there. That's it, I think. Yeah, that's fully home now. You don't have to or shouldn't have to knock that into the bearing. It should just be a good sort of close sliding fit like that. Okay, so they're good to go. Right, now in the case of this gearbox we got a 5-speeder, as I mentioned earlier, but you want to have the whole lay shaft assembly and these 3 sliding gears all sort of held together, ready to offer up. And this can this is where the bad language can sometimes set in. Basically I'm going to offer this whole lot up together now. The end of the lay shaft will find its way into the lay shaft bush in there easily enough with a bit of wiggling, but the trick is you got these gears here where you can see them. I've got the splines that obviously engage with the splines on the main shaft sleeve, so there can be a bit of fiddling and jiggling to do there, but let's give it a go, see what happens. And obviously you also actually you need this, what's called the gear operator, that moves the selector up as far as it'll possibly go, so that initially it'll clear the 2 sort of pegs on the moving selector that it engages with. Hopefully we'll see all of that and why in a moment. I'm going to offer these up now. Like I say, the lay shaft cluster is fine, that'll behave itself pretty well usually, but the main shaft gears can be a bit of a nuisance. Here we go. Right, we've got them part way, and I can feel the end of the lay shaft going into the bush, so that's good. Right, now I've just got to get this gear, obviously there we are, that's on its splines as well, and it's dropped in. You can see those pegs now have dropped into the gear operator. In fact, I'll give you a closer look at that, perhaps. Hopefully that can be seen there. So that's good, that's all ready to go. That actually went more smoothly than I expected, but they're all in. So what I can do next, obviously that's how your gear selector mechanism works. It moves the gears along the lay shaft and the main shaft to various positions predetermined by the teeth or indents there, which are what give you your clicks, and that holds the gears in the various positions along the shafts to give you whichever gear you've selected, hopefully, or that's how it should work. In the case of these 4 and 5 speed Royal Enfield gearboxes, and especially the 5-speeders, sometimes it can be a bit of a lottery, but they're all in there, spinning freely and all in the correct order. We've got a little thrust washer or shim there, it mustn't be forgotten, and here's the rest of the main shaft, which I'm not going to put in yet because I want to get the nut, I want to get the gearbox sprocket fitted on the other side next, and get the nut on it and get it done up. So I'll be doing that before I come back to this, but basically this will just sort of slide in there, and that pretty much completes the gearbox. But like I say, I don't need that in there for now, so we'll come back to that, and my next job will be fit the gearbox sprocket. That bit there runs in the seal, the new seal that I've just fitted. Get the nut on, get it tightened up. This is unusual. Usually they have holes, you do the nut up and then there's a threaded hole and you can put a little grub screw in to lock the nut, but this hasn't got that, so I'll be using a sort of thread locking compound, a bit like Loctite or whatever I got here, just to make sure that that nut is not going to undo itself after it's done it, although by nature of the rotation of the sprocket and everything, the nut should really be inclined to self-tighten, but it doesn't always work like that. So either use the grub screw if there's a threaded hole provided, or some thread locking compound of some sort or another. So there we are, that's the gearbox components back in there. I'll get the gearbox sprocket on next, as I said, and done up. Then I can put the main shaft in, and then once I've done that I can put the end cover and all the other gubbins on, and the gearbox will be back in one piece and hopefully ready to go.